Mr. Chancellor, I present to you Mr. Gerald Sheff, an accomplished architect, business leader, and philanthropist, who has distinguished himself as a dynamic contributor to Canada's corporate, educational, and cultural sectors. After graduating from McGill's School of Architecture in 1964, Mr. Sheff worked in London, England, before returning to Montreal to participate in a number of important projects, including the British Pavilion at Expo 67. He earned an MBA from Harvard University, then embarked on a 13-year career in real estate development with the Cadillac Fairview Corporation in Toronto. In 1984, he co-founded Gluskin Sheff and Associates, one of Canada's most successful investment firms. As a leader and a philanthropist, Mr. Sheff is deeply committed to Canadian education, healthcare, arts, and culture. He serves on the advisory board of the Scotiabank Giller Prize and board of director of the Canadian Centre of Architecture, and is the past chairman of the United Jewish Appeal and director of the Ontario College of Art. The Gerald Sheff and Shanita Shan Charitable Foundation has made transformational gifts to the Canadian community, including the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health. Mr. Sheff is also a dedicated McGill alumnus. He served the university community as a member of the Board of Governors. His support allowed for the creation of the Gerald Sheff Visiting Professorship in McGill's School of Architecture, an endowment that funds a visiting design professor focused on stimulating innovation and professional excellence through teaching, public speaking, and research. In addition, Gluskin Sheff and Associates support the Gluskin Sheff Traveling Scholarships in Architecture. In 2011, the Royal Architecture Institute of Canada presented Mr. Sheff with the Advocate for Architecture Award of Excellence in recognition of his significant contributions and support for Canadian architecture. Mr. Sheff is a broad-thinking leader who has a global outlook and understands the importance of personal responsibility. It is with great pride that today we honor his exceptional career and strong sense of public service. Mr. Chancellor, I present to you Mr. Gerald Sheff, so that you may confer upon him the degree of Doctor of Laws honoris causa.
I now invite our newest double graduate of McGill, Dr. Gerald Sheff, to deliver the convocation address. Dr. Sheff.
"60 years ago, I received a letter from the Registrar of McGill University. I have it here. It's a very nice letter. Dear Mr. Sheff, it begins, I have the pleasure of informing you that the university has admitted you into the first year of a 6-year program in architecture. At the time, as you may imagine, that letter meant a great deal to me. My warm welcome, however, did not last, and for good reason. Almost from day one, I was never entirely sure that architecture was right for me. I wasn't convinced that was where I belonged. And yet, there I was. Because of that uncertainty, I didn't really apply myself to my studies. And because I didn't apply myself, I proved to be less than a stellar student. Although I did become pretty good at billiards and not too bad at poker. But for the purposes for which I was enrolled, I struggled. The administration eventually took notice. Funny how that works, isn't it? Now, I know it's customary for convocation speakers to disparage their own academic performance. Trust me, I am not being modest. 3 years later, another letter arrived, this time from John Bland, the school's director. I have it here as well. I keep everything. Dear Sheff, it begins. No mister this time. The letter goes on to inform me that I had failed to maintain a 60% average, and I quote, by a rather wide margin. I was at risk of turning a 6-year marathon into 7 or 8. Only one thing saved me: determination. Begging and pleading. Those were the desperate expressions of my determination. But it worked. John Bland gave me a second chance. It would be nice to report that I seized that opportunity, became a model student, and graduated with an A average. But I did no such thing. 2 months before graduation, Mr. Bland again put me on notice with yet another Dear Sheff letter. Again, I was able to alter course in the nick of time, and I did graduate in the 6-year time frame. But just to show you how unpredictable life can be, 2 years later, the same John Bland hired me as an architect in his Montreal office. And 3 years after that, he wrote a reference letter that helped me get into the Harvard Business School. By the way, those Dear Sheff letters of 60 years ago were all typed by John Bland's secretary, a wonderful woman whose initials M.A. appear at the bottom of each letter. Maureen Anderson is her name. Maureen has remained my friend all these years, and I am delighted that she is here today. You can stand up, Maureen. Who in 1964... Who in 1964 would ever have predicted any of this? Monsieur le Chancelier Mayen, Madame la Principale et Vice-Chancelière Fortier, Monsieur le Président du Conseil des gouverneurs Panda, membres du cortège d'honneur, chers parents et invités, et surtout chers finissants de 2018, c'est un honneur pour moi de m'adresser à la convocation d'aujourd'hui. I offer these stories of my checkered past at McGill to make a point, and the point is simply this. My life journey has not been direct. Almost certainly, neither will yours be. For me, recognizing that I was not cut out for architecture was a problem. But in retrospect, I see now that it was part of the process of me finding my way. And the challenges that I encountered only stiffened my resolve, my determination to make something of myself and to do something with my life. But I want to make something else clear. Although my years at McGill were not exactly fun and games, my experience at the School of Architecture imbued me with a deep, lifelong appreciation and respect for architectural practice and indeed for all of the creative arts. That appreciation has informed everything I've done in real estate, in money management, in virtually every aspect of my life. It may seem like heresy to say this, but I believe it's true. Poor grades, mediocre grades, straight A's in the end, none of that necessarily matters. As you embark on life beyond these congenial precincts, don't for a minute think that you can coast on your resumes. As Bill Gates once observed, success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. The only thing any achievement will do is gain you admission to the next challenge, the next arena. And once you arrive, you will be called upon to prove yourself all over again. And then again. If that seems unfair, that's because it is. It's also the truth. But if in the long run, academic performance does not fundamentally matter, what does? Well, here are some possible answers. One is luck. Never underestimate its importance. Trouble is, luck by definition is completely out of your control. That's why they call it luck. I have been lucky more times than I can count, and certainly more than I deserve. Lucky to have been born in Canada and to have come of age in the optimistic post-war years. Lucky to have been born into a loving family and raised in a nurturing community only a few blocks east of here. Lucky to have been blessed with 6 children and 7 grandchildren, and very lucky to have almost all of them here today. Lucky to have made friendships that have both tested me and sustained me in difficult times. Lucky to have forged an enduring business partnership that has lasted for 35 years with Ira Gluskin, who has been both a great partner and a loyal friend. And supremely lucky to have met and married an amazing and loving woman, Shanitha Kachin, who has shared my life for almost 25 years. Luck, of course, either chooses you or it doesn't. It's out of your control. But so is pretty much everything else. Control is an illusion. The most you will be able to do by how you conduct yourself, by the decisions you make, is exercise some modest influence on your life. To paraphrase the incomparable Leonard Cohen, we live as if we were the directors of our lives and make choices as if they were real choices that we control. But the deeper understanding is that we don't run the show. We live our lives, in Cohen's words, 1,000 kisses deep, by which he meant that we must surrender to the fundamental mystery of life that can neither be known nor controlled. In hindsight, which is mostly what I have these days, I can fairly say that any modest achievements that I might claim flow largely from the same attribute that got me through McGill: determination. And so if I could recommend one quality, a single personality trait that will prove indispensable to you in the years ahead, whatever your passion, whatever path you choose, that would be it: determination. How badly do you want whatever it is you want, and how hard are you prepared to work and sacrifice to get it? Growing up on Montreal's plateau, where neither parent went to university and one never finished high school, it became clear to me early on, it was made clear to me, that if I wanted anything out of life, I would have to figure out how to go and get it. No one could or would give it to me or do it for me. Thus, even though I had doubts about architecture as a career, I never doubted the importance of finishing the program. 5 years later, even though I feared I might have trouble getting into the Harvard Business School, I was determined to do whatever was needed to get there. And when in 1984, in the wake of a fierce recession, people said Ira and I were nuts to enter the money management field, and even nuttier to charge what was then the highest fee structure in Canada, I never doubted that we could build a highly successful investment management boutique with significant cachet, and we did, and we had a lot of fun along the way. And to this day, when I focus on something I consider important, I refuse to be told it can't be done. Of course it can. You just have to figure out how. So determination is necessary, but it may not be enough. Let me explain. When I went to Harvard, my principal skill in life seemed to be self-deprecation. But then I had a lot of material to work with. How was it that I was sitting in the same room with some of the brightest minds from around the world? Then I thought, maybe they're not that bright. After all, they let me in. But during my first few weeks there, an interesting thing happened, a kind of aha moment that provided a lasting insight. I initially wondered whether I had anything substantive to contribute to the class discussions. I did have thoughts and opinions, of course, but I was lacking in confidence and doubted their value. So I just sat back and quietly listened. But as I listened, I realized that the things I would have said, if I'd had enough conviction, were often those that earned validation when expressed by others. Similarly, opinions that I privately dismissed as misguided often ended up being denigrated. Day by day, my confidence grew. My thinking, it became clear to me, was just as legitimate as anyone else's. If I had an opinion, it deserved to be heard and considered. Because this is what I realized. And here I think we approach the heart of the matter. On the complex issues and questions that you will confront, and in today's unpredictable, increasingly dislocated world, you will confront them. There are no categorically right or wrong answers. There are only judgment calls. Decisions you will have to make based on imperfect information. And it is on that shifting, uncertain ground that you will ultimately be measured. Information is easy. There's more information within reach of the cell phones most of you have managed not to look at for the past 10 minutes. And by the way, I appreciate that. Than you will ever possibly need. It's what you do with information that counts. Judgment. Everything important comes down to judgment. How does one acquire judgment? And how does one acquire the discipline of not rushing to judgment? I'm afraid I can offer no easy answers. Welcome to life after university. What I can do is urge you to soak up as much experience as possible. Read voraciously. Read real books and newspapers. Read opinions you disagree with. Talk to people you disagree with. Don't isolate yourselves in the echo chambers of social media. Work hard at making and keeping friends, and stay engaged with your families and your communities. This is no mere platitude. Your ambitions, your career, these are undeniably important, but they are not nearly as important as the human connections you will make. In the final analysis, your quality of life will depend on the strength of your relationships with your life partners, your parents, your children, and your friends. Always remember to keep your eye on the bigger picture. Graduates, you might be tempted to think of the diploma you are about to receive as a kind of ending, but I would encourage you to think of it as a beginning, the opening of a doorway that will lead you to places and situations you cannot begin to fathom. A great adventure awaits you, but it would be a mistake to sugarcoat it. In the journey ahead, you will meet your share of setbacks. You will meet adversity. You will meet disappointment. And you will need to answer with every resource you can develop, with intense focus, with steely determination, with stubborn resilience, and wherever possible, with sound judgment. I wish you all of that and a healthy dose of good luck. Chancellor Meehan, Principal and Vice Chancellor Fortier, members of the Board of Governors, thank you for the enormous honor you have bestowed on me today. I am deeply humbled. Je suis très fier de partager cet honneur avec cette cohorte impressionnante de diplômés et avec les membres de leur famille ainsi que leurs amis. Je suis particulièrement fier que ce diplôme m'ait été conféré par mon alma mater, l'Université McGill. Truly one of the premier institutions of higher learning in the world, McGill has a distinguished history and has benefited from extraordinary leadership. I only wish my parents, Louis and Sally Sheff, were here to savor this moment. They sometimes worried, justifiably so, if I would ever finish high school. And now here I am, what they always wanted me to be, a doctor. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.